Boom. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. It's a late evening, so that means we're going to get a late evening TO rant. Now, I never know where that's going to take us either, so welcome and enjoy the entertainment education. Usually always try to weave a little bit of my philosophical thoughts about wealth and richness into some of the fun things I've found in charting over the years. One of my favorites, I guess, was kind of in its nature, understanding things like scale and variance. So we're going to talk about that and a particular idea that we've gone over a few times, just because repeating mantras is important. So I played percussion for most of my life when I was younger. And you're always repeating cycles and rhythms and patterns, and that over time produces this kind of valuable autonomic response to things. In the markets, your autonomic response is actually the wrong thing to do. This is why so many people do poorly at trading. Right out the gate, the markets are designed to take advantage of your humanness, effectively. Investing, which is the opposite of kind of human nature, which removes the noise of, say, fear and greed and looks at a macro picture, allows you to do something with consistency, which is how pattern building works. This kind of function of repetition. So here we're looking at Bitcoin. Again, we are watching what I believe to be a reaccumulation channel. Now, there are a bunch of conversations around this. These can take any number of months, and the price or percentage through the change of this sequence of events can occur at any range as well. So what I mean by scale invariant is that when we're looking at the scale of the X and Y axis of a chart that we're looking at, this usually you're seeing price and time. If we were to remove both of those things, the chart actually holds a lot of information by itself. And there's a lot of great studies by people like Benoit Mandelbrot, as well as it got a book called The Misbehavior of Markets. He, I want to say he won the Nobel Prize for his work on understanding fractal geometry. And its ability to create most things that we see in nature. So there's a lot of fun things kind of tucked in technical analysis that I like. First off is a large amount of psychology, but second off, we're charting human nature. So it does not seem to escape the grasp of nature, regardless of if it's a human or not. So that's a quite exciting kind of counter or at least side thesis to the initial investment aspect. So what I mean by this is inevitably when we're witnessing these accumulation and distribution moments, or in this particular moment, accumulation, reaccumulation, and then distribution. So an idealized market cycle is usually accumulation, drawn at the bottom here, and then up at the top we come down and then distribution. But usually somewhere in the middle, we seem to get these reaccumulation patterns. And we saw this in multiple other charts with Tesla and a few others over the past. And we've seen many that in their reaccumulation, they actually look quite bearish to the novice, say, signal finder. The reason being is because when big players are trying to accumulate, they want to do their best to keep the price low. So they're going to do what they need to do to kind of buy and accumulate on a daily basis in ways that don't absolutely destroy the market and create more volatility and then also much more interest. They want to kind of manage a balance between the interest of the things that they want to buy. Now, this is one of the conversations around scarcity that you could fall down another rabbit hole. This is why late night chats with Tio get into the philosophical aspects. But effectively, if you go back to this idea that Benoit Mandelbrot kind of, I guess, really, at least in our day and age, put well to words how you can create geometry and scale. We have more ancient functions of like the Fibonacci sequence that we can use in charting as well. But ultimately, pattern finding is built off the ability to kind of remove the noise from the signal. And the noise is the fear and the greed. This is the thing that causes the volatility. Now, what we're interested in is the fear rational or is the greed irrational? So if you hear a noise in the jungle, now this is a long rant about charting from a more, let's say, we'll say a more calculated aspect. Technical analysis is good for a few things. Making day trades is not really a smart idea. If you find a good asset, what you want to do is make sure that you have the conviction to go through the low cycles and continue to accumulate. It's really one of the kind of core mindsets. So more than it is a buying at a low and a selling at a high of an asset, which you can do. I think what Michael Saylor has done, and you see many other big players again just go down this route, is that if we understand this core thesis of the degradation of the dollar, we want to accumulate assets because they're just going to keep printing all across the world. They've been doing that for hundreds of years. You can go back even further, hundreds of years more, to see that we've been doing the same thing. These cycles don't really change. So again, when we're looking at charts, we're looking at human nature. So when we remove the time and we remove the price, what we get is this kind of beautiful sequence of events that is repeated in pattern in numeric format almost. So this is something that we had looked at a few times. I was not the first to find it. Bulkowski, Three Peaks, and Domed House. There is also the Domed House and Three Peaks. What's interesting about these is these are actually bearish reversal patterns. So they start off bearish, and then when they hit their finalization, they reverse and they go, from what we've seen most of the time, they go many orders of magnitude higher. So we'll just go through again a quick education thought here around this process, because I'm trying to mix a few ideas together. So George Lindsay, certainly before its publication in 1971, had discovered the Three Peaks and Domed House, the Domed House and Three Peaks, as we had said. I searched for this pattern exclusively in the inclusions of the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns, and I never included it. Lindsay says it appears in Dow Jones. And actually, okay, so again here, more than looking for this in a chart, let's just imagine that these are mountains. And the reason why this is, again, such a unique concept is that something like scale invariance is a function that exists regardless of if you're in charts or if you're studying geomorphology. So because of that, what we're doing is we're actually trying to find an indication of things that repeat themselves based off how people think and then react, and then larger cycles take place. So what's fun here is this, what we're seeing, Three Peaks in a Domed House. We've gone over this one a few times. Point 10 and point 28 are super important. And when we've looked at our charts, the S&P 500, we've compared with Bitcoin many times. Let's actually just focus in on the S&P 500 and kind of drag Bitcoin to the top here. Let's dive into this. This is going to be more, where is this? There we go. That was not it. Okay. So as we can see, this kind of, you get to this really this really downward spiral of human psychology. Everyone's like, oh my God, the financial markets are over. The crisis has taken place. It's over. Now, there are cataclysms that could do that. I could think of a few of them, but this financial system is not really one of them. Yes, it is a dangerous thing. Things can go ridiculous, but we seem to come up with the same horrible answer every time, which is just inflate currencies until things just systemically collapse. But nonetheless, what we're witnessing here is actually a very similar mountain peak. You can go climb mountains. You're going to find this all the time. Now, again, read the book, The Misbehavior of Markets, by Benoit Mandelbrot. It's a fascinating thought experiment and thesis around looking at charts and understanding the nature of what we're witnessing, which is if we exclude some of the kind of end results of what we're looking for, we get a clearer picture. And this is why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, is when we compare the S&P 500 to Bitcoin, what we see is that after, again, 0.28, which hits almost exactly down to 0.10, not always, you're going to have a give or take of an up or down, either percentage point way. These are not, nothing is exact in the valleys and peaks of life. That's not how this works, but it's pretty close. So that's all we need. I suspect, again, that what we're going to witness is an extraordinary move of Bitcoin into very, very high levels over the next 10 years. In 2017, when we started this channel, at least the YouTube channel, we were on Twitter and we were ranting on a few other places. I think Steam at that time. Nonetheless, when we first started being really bullish, I thought Bitcoin is $6 million. And what's going to need to happen for us to get there, right? It's not just about investment. When we look back at what's happened to the S&P 500, the reason why we so commonly share, let's just look at the S&P 500 for a minute. We've got, it's a late night chat on a Friday too. So this means anyone who's not cool enough to go out is watching this. So this is like a lesson for sure. And it's more of let's say a discovery. It's also my lesson. I'm learning here too. But so reaccumulation, whether it's Bitcoin, I love how the volume is pretty much disappeared at the moment too. It's loading so slowly. Let's see here. Is the connection still good? Okay. Oh, there we go. That'll help. Okay. So we're going mountain climbing. So here's Bitcoin, and we want to go back to the S&P 500. So there's a few reasons why what we're about to do here is important. Number one, the S&P 500 represents kind of some of the strongest apparent companies in the U.S. basket. So it's going to give us a good picture of like tech, usually fast scaling technology, or old deep-seated stuff will sit in there too. Okay, so we also have here noted the pandemic start and the pandemic end. And now think about how, first off, in my mind, ladies and gentlemen, the idea of the pandemic when it first started was cataclysmic. And we only dropped to 222 points before they just basically was like, hey, we'll just print another $9 trillion, stimulate economic velocity, and we'll deal with it later. And this is kind of the point of the Bitcoin conversation. The reason why we've invested in it originally, the core thesis, is that this rate of inflation is actually stealing at an extraordinary rate, and most people don't really grasp how fast that is unless they repeat it a bunch. Like the government is or the bank by through inflation 2% per year. How much is that over 10 years, and what's that over 100 years? That's a lot. That's a lot of percentages every year. Wait, so what happens if it keeps, like, I remember when oil went negative. Anyways, things that you wouldn't think happen are actually happening. And the degradation of the dollar has been taking place for longer than I've been alive. So if it's gone down, for us to return to some of its highs, it would be a multiple X. Whereas from here to go, we're just continuing further down. And this is where I think it starts to become clear, is when we make comparisons. So where's our indicate? Where's my indicator bar right now? Nice. Okay, let's see. Do I have the M1 still open? I do not. Well, dang. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't seem to find my edit bar here. No. No. Okay, well, I can't seem to find the comparison chart. I've actually never seen it misplaced before. Well, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. This is definitely a discovery moment. I can't seem to find my comparison charts. Well, nonetheless, that's funny. This is one of my other favorite things about growing, is you always know you're never like the best, and you don't even need to be effective. You just need to get it right. Getting it right, and then getting it more right is actually often up to serendipity too. I'm really surprised I can't find this. Maybe it's under, yes, compare. Nice, they've put it to the left side. Boom. We found it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here we go. Actually, there's some fun things we can add here. So there's the M2 money stock. So money, actually currency. That's what we're talking about, more so than money. The US dollar, I would not consider money. It's a currency, although lots of people call it money. It's a first probably useful distinction to make. So we could look at velocity too. That's also another fun conversation, but nonetheless, when we look at this, I think this is the most representative of what's taking place in the market. So right now it's quite colorful. We're going to remove a few of these charts because that's a lot of noise right now. Whoa, I haven't seen some of these in forever. Okay. So both orange lines. Orange line going up through the chart with basically pretty, what starts off pretty flat, turns linear, and then now is basically going exponential, is taking place right now. This is where we start to move into things like hyperinflation, and you don't see it at first in everyday stuff. And you see it in the degradation of the currency. And one of the main reasons why assets have been going up over all these years is because of that monetary supply. And when they create the supply, the dollars usually go somewhere, and often they end up in assets. More and more, sadly, as they do not fix or change anything in the ecosystem, what you end up with is often poor investments. So a lot of like zombie companies, I think Mike Maloney calls it. This is another great way to look at it. It's basically companies that shouldn't exist anymore are still functioning because of these broken systems. The banks are kind of one of them. Now, the Federal Reserve is they're going to probably try to take over the banks with that as an argument too, like, oh, the banks in 2008. It's actually more of a kind of the central idea. Anywhere where they're creating debt, this, I guess, more than anything, you have to look at this as the creation of debt, not just the creation of money, because you can get, again, you can get a kind of a loss-filled conversation between money, currency, and then also currency created through the initiation of debt, like, hey, you owe us that, right? So anyways, they've built a pretty complex machine here, and they've been able to keep it going widely because technology is amazing. Technology has really filled a lot of the gaps. So I think that's an important idea to note as well. So we've been able to grow exponentially, largely, not just through the monetary velocity, but through technology. This is kind of one of the interesting conversations around deflationary technology meeting this kind of like infinite inflationary political agenda. The technology is doing a lot of the work now, and a lot of people are probably at jobs that aren't as functional for society as they could be. So let's take a closer look at the S&P 500. So there are reasons to be very bullish for most of the crypto space. There's also some warning signs. Number one, I would suspect that we're going to see more volatility in the S&P 500. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Maybe nothing. That might actually mean nothing for Bitcoin or the whole crypto sector. We've been kind of at a bottom for a little bit. I think what's unique about this industry is the speed at which it's growing. So the S&P 500 is quite a bit older as well. So it's got much farther to go down than the crypto space has to go up, at least at the moment. The crypto space could grow 10 times faster than the S&P 500 could very easily, 10, 20, 100 times faster. There's a whole lot more potential when you start dealing with sovereign identity and property ownership. Is a pretty phantasmagorical idea in today's society, if you think about it. Also, if you note as well, look at the way the price almost returned down to the money printing when, from this chart here. If we give a clearer version of the quantitative easing between 2013, because the monetary supply is locked onto its percentage growth through that time, we get a bit of a different storyline through it. But notice here how throughout 2013 through 2020, we basically just grew above the inflationary monetary supply. But we actually had some really cool peaks coming up in 2020 with not a huge amount of supply. But we're going from a linear to an almost exponential growth pattern it gets weird. And that's likely what's going to happen with these monetary printing policies to some degree or another. Wow. Could get into a much darker argument or conversation. But nonetheless, again, what we start to see is as we get a little closer, we remove some of the data, we see that there's a lot of potential for the floor to fall out, basically back down to where the money printing was. And we'd seen that a bunch all the way through 2014 through 2016. So we're pretty significantly high up off of the current velocity. So they'd have to, and now they're only pushing basis points up a few percent, but largely speaking, people like to make decisions based off what the masses think is right. We've done this a lot. It's called consensus, and it's not always factual. Actually, a history study will teach you that. So in these moments, I think what's interesting about Bitcoin is the crisis potential as well. So not only are we seeing large parties accumulate around the world, its ability to be an uninterruptible peer-to-peer financial trust machine is pretty spectacular. Now, one of the things I think that's important too is that as we come to this last final area, this could very easily turn into distribution, and we could come lower. Like That's a possibility. Like when you're dealing with any sort of, I guess, meditation, you want to recognize the fact that you can still make mistakes, right? So here, the mistake would be the change in character. As we get bullish, as we get excited, do we miss something? So ideally, in a trading range, let's look at this. This will actually be quite helpful. So we have some highlighted areas, these top yellow lines and the green lines down below. So we are actually currently right above the midsection of this trading range right here. And as you can see to the right-hand side is the VPVR. And again, if we draw this across from the top of the PSY, what we end up getting is almost this perfectly carved out right in the bottom lower quadrant of the accumulation range. What we believe to be an accumulation range. Let's be a little more pragmatic here for a second. And above the top, it usually would come down like this. This would be the creek, and we could actually pull open something like some moving averages here. These are usually what they look like. This is what I would call the creek most specifically. So we've got the 200 and 314 day as well as the Bollinger Bands on right now. So this kind of final area is subject to some pretty dramatic change usually. So if we're bullish, we're going to notice and we're going to see a lot of it really soon, which is great. And if there's any type of bearish remark, which is usually just good for accumulation and being patient, effectively this moment in time, like when you go from a phase B to effective phase C, from this reversal, from the finalization of this kind of domed house moment where you go from 0.28 and you get this huge reversal pattern, much like the S&P 500. Let's go back to this. Let's go back to the 3-day. Get rid of the M2 supply because that won't help here. Yeah, this reversal pattern, when you hit the bottom of this 3 peaks in a domed house type idea, you turn around very quickly and you go up for multiple years afterwards. This seems very logical to me. We are in a time when money that's not controlled by government, I think, is going to become more and more appealing to people around the world. In the Cyprus crash, when the people had the banks and the governments take all of their money from them, it was a reality for them. And that's when Bitcoin first went from $90 to $1,000. And that's when it first caught my attention about the importance of kind of sovereign, free choice, non-government money. Now, what's even more interesting, I think, is the fact that this whole space represents an opportunity for private ownership of identity and governance and finance. Those are 3 extremely important pillars of human society and culture on across the globe. So having a way to manage that, especially because it's such a powerful economic system, is super important, because when you're running these highly charged wires of economic activity, if you have corruption and corrosion on the connection points, it becomes a really loss-filled signal. And what we've seen in this crypto sector is an absolute explosion towards the potential that's there when you remove the friction of the middle conversation or the third party. A peer-to-peer conversation is just, hey, you and I agree that we want to trade this service for this product using this means of exchange. That's what a peer-to-peer contract effectively is. You can do it in any number of ways with legal agreements, but now with contract through code. And it's a kind of a leap of faith to trust the code. But you know what? After all I've seen from kind of our previous mistakes, I have a way to kind of mess around, play around, kind of try to screw with, have other people within the circle try to mess with and go, hey, no, we actually all are seeing this same code, and it's not written by a person. Well, okay, that's actually not entirely true. All code is written by people. Let's start off with this. Sorry, we don't have to trust the middle party to enforce it. Oh yeah, it's late night. Okay, the point of this is, because that third party allows so much corruption to take place within the peer-to-peer conversation, when you remove that, you get a much more powerful ecosystem. So everything is actually looking very bullish. which is great to see. So we looked across the board earlier today in our video. I wanted to actually leave a good part of tonight open for a group, kind of a group conversation as well. These late night chats always get a little wild because it's nighttime here. It's basically past bedtime. And I start to rant, and that's always fun because I don't know where I'm going to go. So it's entertaining for myself and hopefully everyone else enjoying the show. Okay, so the point of this is ultimately just keep buying. When you find a great asset, just keep buying. Here in the middle of this range, if we, I wish my drawing tool was a bit something. I think it's because the camera must be using a bunch more data, but I can barely draw on here right now. It's so laggy, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. Probably part of the reason why I'm not drawing on the screen right now either. Let's see. Oh, it could be Discord. That sometimes would do it. Let's close Telegram here too. You mean, Tio, you don't think it's the high def camera? Let's go here. Boom. Okay. Okay, still a little slow, but nonetheless. So there's basically two options. We're going to go up or down. Everyone knows that in the in the technical analysis world. The question is for how long. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters, but nonetheless, probably around 41,000. That'd be my guess. Big players here. They're going to push this up. We're going to probably rip to around 60 pretty freaking quick after that. Otherwise, if we come back down and can't break above 46 and get stuck below this pattern and break below 30, oh dear God, we could be in for a world of hurt of things I can't understand around the world. Look, you have to remember that when you're kind of trying to tell the future, like we don't know if some crazy crap is coming around the corner, and you can't account for the things you don't know that are going to happen. Again, like let's say I always use an asteroid probably because I love studying star stuff. So I always picture like an asteroid disrupting it. Like what happens if like 2 weeks from now, an asteroid comes and smashes into, I don't want to say any particular city's name, but some big city that no one wants an asteroid to smash into. That would be horrible. And that would cause the market to dip, fears to become, well, first off, rational, but also irrational. So our rationality is important, again, when we know that it was just a rock and not actually a bear that we heard in the forest beside us, because then we don't have to react. But ultimately in the future, when we don't know if we're going to see, well, if there's a bear right there that happens to scare the out of everybody, I think we're just going to be I think we're ultimately bullish. We may not even come lower than that. You know, if, let's see, I wish it was a little faster. I'm going to have to, take this and get a new streaming computer here. Oh, I know what it is. Here, let's just be a little more sensible about all the data we're trying to load at any given moment here. Yeah, we can even get rid of the volume and the VPVR for right now. Boom. Okay, let's go with just the price. Yes, okay, this is actually quite a bit cleaner. And then we will go put the VPVR back on. Yes, okay. And then let's use the Bear Claw, one of our, we give this away for free. You can find it on our trading view. It's just a stacked exponential moving average and two simple moving averages, the 200 and 314. The 200 is the blue, sorry, the green, and the blue is the 314. Just slightly below the green there. Okay, so as we zoom in closer, you're going to see the exponential moving averages start to become much more apparent, which is why I guess it's going so slow. It's a lot of data to load on these bigger time frames. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, so ultimately we could turn around here. So the white line is the price. The reason I get rid of the candles, well, first off, I just think it's a clear representation of actual price closure between the bands. But nonetheless, as you can see, whether you're looking at the candles or as I like to do with the area chart, we are not currently closed above. And even on the candle, we're actually getting most of the wicks down. So the first area that we'll retest is 43, but I ultimately think both the 200 and 314 moving average on the daily and pretty damn close, or sorry, on the 6 hour and pretty damn close on the daily here as well. Well, actually, on the daily, we are right between the 200 and 314 day moving averages and just above the 50 and I believe 25 are the yellows. Actually, I haven't looked at the 3 moving averages for a little while. Let's see. I don't usually use moving averages for anyone that really cares. I try to remove as much data as possible and just look at a macro picture. I get a much better result, but let's dive a little bit deeper here. So inputs, we're running it, okay, 55, 21, and 9 coming down here from, yeah, okay, so 55, 21, and 9. So 55 is purple. No, 55 will be yellow, 25 will be white, and 9 will be the purple one right underneath here, following closest. So there's reason to believe, again, we could hit 41,000, but yeah, it snapped right between the 200 and the 314 day moving averages. So either way we look at it, we might not come lower. I still like to assume that the big players want the price to go as low as it possibly can each time so that they can buy as much of it at as cheap a price from as much as that's left on the open market supply, basically supply as possible, which just kind of makes sense, right? It's what everybody wants. So how do you do that? That's what I'm sure people are figuring out. I recommend consistency as the easiest way to do that through time, but you can, big players are doing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a day. I think 3 arrows dropped the other day, like we're moving $125 million a day into Bitcoin right now. People are worried. Anyways, let's see. What was the other idea here we want to go over? There was one more I wanted to talk about. Aside from basically we're bullish. Oh yeah, the downside. Here in the 3-day, I don't like to use moving averages, but as much as I believe that this is a reaccumulation range, until you get to phase C and you get proof, it's hard to tell. This mid-range here, it can very easily turn around, like right here. We've already got a little bit of a sell signal potentially, and then come back down like this. It's very easy to see distribution that does this too, by the way. So again, I don't think that's what's happening here, just based off sentiment and current climate in the world. I don't believe that is the case, but it is a possibility. And again, we can't foresee the future. If something cataclysmic happens, it becomes very likely, right? We don't know what that is. Hopefully doesn't happen, right? But that's the kind of the fun/not fun. Like if you look at one of the best times to buy Bitcoin, it was exactly the day that they declared the pandemic starting back in 2020. Like that day, had you bought every single motherfucking day in and out, all the money that you possibly could, we basically went up and up and up and up and up and up and up for like almost a year and a half. From March 2020 till May 2021, basically. It was impressive. So effectively, buying right and sitting tight is important. It's usually happen in moments of fear. I think we've reached kind of peak fear for the next few years. I don't suspect we'll get anything unless it's an asteroid. I don't see nuclear war happening. We even had the supposed war, and it was barely a glimmer on the charts. Now you could definitely noticeable on the oil and wheat charts, though. War definitely changed the price of wheat and oil, but not too much. In the Bitcoin ecosystem, we are already headed towards the bottom of the trading range. But again, a lot of support off the 200 3-day moving average here as well. Ultimately, I'm bullish. Do your own due diligence. I think that this is like a basically a no-brainer asset at this point. Bitcoins should be so easy to understand for everyone now. Like if you have any sense to your damn self. If you don't, I'm sorry. Go buy some and you'll figure it out pretty quick, I assume. Sovereign ownership of whether it's assets or identity is a powerful force to ponder. Okay, let's take a look. I know the Bear Den had a few questions, so we're going to open this part to the live chat. Now that there's 100 people kicking around, thanks for all joining. Give us a thumbs up. Haven't done a late night live stream in forever. I almost didn't even do a live stream for a whole 2 months there, because it was like a birthday month. I took a 2-month birthday month. Is that allowed? Anyways, I did it. Let's go to the hold on just 1 sec, ladies and gentlemen. We're just opening. Okay. First thought, question about Luna and the Bitcoin reserve. Okay. First off, I don't know all the details, so I don't even want to pretend that I do know all the details. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to do. But this is what I will say. Currency and money are different things. What's unique about these current stable coins that we have is that they're backed by assets like money. Hey, that's actually a pretty fucking great idea, isn't it? Because currently none of our currency is backed by money. Well, see, this is what people made a mistake of doing, was conflating the ideas of money and currency, when currency is supposed to be kind of like an easy transfer note of money. So that way, if I gave you a note, you could then redeem that note for something like a gold. Well, what's gold? Well, gold's a commodity. Well, what else are commodities? Wheat and oil. Okay, if land is kind of a commodity, is more of a property. Okay, well, what else? Most of this comes down to ownership of assets, effectively. Well, that's what money seems to be. It's how liquid is that money? How liquid is a property versus a business that you own, right? These are very important questions when you're dealing with the financial ecosystem, and it's one of the things I think that is important for what Terra is doing. Using Bitcoin as a reserve is a great idea. We've seen a lot of stuff like this work already, and pegging it to the dollar is kind of stupid. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, we could peg it to the basket of currencies, but use a local asset. Hey, this sounds like a great idea, which is what we see. Using Bitcoin, or at this point, I think we're going to see such a proliferation of DeFi that you'll be able to do this with most assets. But Bitcoin, I think, will be the core underlying monetary layer of almost if not the entire crypto ecosystem. I've said this for a few years, that one of the most unique things about Bitcoin is that it's a tractor. I don't need it to do anything spectacular. Just this one fucking thing over and over and over again, and it's perfect. That's it. We don't need to complicate things. Having a clear channel to express financial sovereignty is fucking perfect, right? So once that's set up, you build this little ecosystem around it of other contract layers you can build. So you got the Ethereums, the Avalanches, the Solanas, the Lunas, and they're all building these different ways to communicate with each other. And everyone has been using this USDT or USDC. It's like, oh, this idea that the US dollar is somehow still the currency of the crypto sector. Now, Dogecoin is probably a better currency of the crypto sector just based off everybody's profile pictures. But what do I know about currency? And again, it brings us back to this idea. Okay, well, what is a currency? And largely currencies have become nothing but memes in our day and age. So I think Terra Labs using Bitcoin as a backing for UST is fantastic. How they got that, I'm not sure what they're borrowing. If they're borrowing against collateral, taking out like a loan on their company. And look, we do this all the time in business. These are called bonds. I don't know why people would suspect anything different. El Salvador is trying to do this. Like, what? When you start to create decentralized financial technologies, like a lot of the stuff that used to be really difficult actually becomes way freaking easier. For instance, like kind of open source venture capitalism has been this profound, quickly moving part of the sector. You have founders from all over the world collaborating together, largely in a decentralized manner, matching the way the technology is functioning. So I think that the underlying asset of a currency should be a money. And again, now it could be a piece of art or property. It could be Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin makes a great argument for itself being that core center. Anyways, could we see lower? Sure. Something cataclysmic happens? Yes, totally. I don't think there's much supply left in the market though, and we constantly go back to this one. We've just seen a consistent dip in the supply. I don't see where the supply is going to come from. I think most of the scared hands are already gone. I mean, there's a pandemic and a war and a food shortage. There's been a lot of fear out there in the streets. So constantly declining supply, slowly rising price. This looks very, very bullish. So align those two ideas. You've got a multi-billion-dollar idea backing currency with money. Yeah, I would double down on that. I would take out a virtual type bond even if I needed to. Now, I'm not sure that's exactly what they did. I haven't looked too closely. It's not. I'm not a tech person. I just like concepts and speculation. So that was the speculation around this concept. I think we're going to see more and more of this. I think it'll become the or it'll become the de facto monetary base for all of this ecosystem will be Bitcoin. And that's largely why when Bitcoin moves, everything else moves dramatically, right? Because that's what's on the other side of the trade is Bitcoin and Ethereum. And now I guess Ethereum and all the other layer ones now too, like Solana and Avalanche, Luna. These are all big players, and we're going to see a multi-chain future. But nonetheless, Bitcoin is now underwriting itself as we should hats off to Do Kwon and the Terra. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, round of applause for them on that one. Let's take a look at the questions from the Bear Den again. Have you done any research on R Fox? No, I have not. I'm sorry, Russell. I don't have an answer for that. It makes it kind of easy for me. Okay, let's see here. We'll go over to this screen now for some of the other thoughts. Love the late night chat. Heavy on THC. Yeah, I love all the cannabinoids. They're their favorites. You gotta stay creative with life, and I love plants. They're some of my best friends. Mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen. Iris always like, hey, you talk about mushrooms too much. I love my mushrooms. We should do another mushroom hunting video, I think, soon. Okay, let's go back actually to this. Here we go. There we go. The ocean causing a huge tidal wave would do it. Yeah, that's another unforeseen event. If all of a sudden a big city that was on the ocean ended up under the water because of a tsunami. Although that would have to be pretty specific. Have to be very specific. That'd be a hard one. Tech is decentralized, so it doesn't exist too much in one place. That'd be a hard one. You have to really scare people, I think. Technical analysis drawings just have a long tries and you'll be fine. No, technical analysis actually has a lot of validity, but yeah, the real core of any thesis here is you can ignore a lot of the noise on screen when you find a good asset and focus on accumulating. Venture capital is fun. The reason our people here is they want to make a lot of money quickly, right? That's why they show up. They see people making a lot of money quickly. Ultimately, we want you to make a lot of money, period. And it doesn't always happen quickly, but it can happen if you do things consistently. So we do try to emphasize the most successful path instead of what sells the best. I'd rather you were successful than just all hyped up. So, next Bitcoin halving 2024. Yes, I suspect we'll be in the six figures, somewhere between 170 and $340,000 for 2024. Ethereal Raider says, I caught a live. Well, great to have you here with us. Glad we're live too. His dad says, I find it amazing the failing economy, hundreds of trillions of debt is still openly referred to as the world reserve currency. Yes, it's a fascinating concept. It is definitely already a meme. I just don't think people recognize it. They're screaming at us like, Bitcoin is not backed by anything, ladies and gentlemen. The fuck? Oh, peer-to-peer. People don't understand peers. Okay, please share a good coin and games NFT. Okay. And also make a discount for membership. We try not to do discounts for membership unless you're already in the free newsletter. If you go to the free newsletter by going to arcanebear.com, which we send out about once or twice a month, we do make discount offers to those that are already in the free newsletter. So you'd have to sign up there first. But they do go out every few months. Good coins for gamers. So we've made a few. We made a few investments we're really excited about. Ultimately, though, I don't want to taint the waters too much with my thoughts on what's a good investment, because I've been wrong a bunch and I've also missed a bunch of things. I really like the play to earn sector. There's just so many things serendipitously aligning for the enjoyment of what you can do with just what you can do with the technology. I think ultimately, especially with branding too, very, very important. One of the most difficult things in this process is you've got to pursue things that you're interested in. The more time you can focus on what you're interested in, the better chance you're going to have at finding the conviction that's necessary to go down that path. There's a good buddy of our, he's one of our advisors here. He's Mr. Kushner. And actually, a few of our, I had a few people trying to bang on my door. I remember Mr. Ryan as well. Mr. LFG. No, LRG. Anyways, the point of this was, when you're dealing with something you don't understand, like Logan was trying to tell me about Decentraland, Alex was trying to show me Metacongs, Mitch was trying to show me I think maybe it was Metacongs too. Zubin was trying to show me the Solana monkey business, and I was hyper focused on the play to earn game sector from kind of the economy point, but I've really started to see this more as an identity conversation, and that's really, really freaking cool. I don't think I've fully grasped the use case of NFTs. I always thought identity was kind of boring, and there's a potential here to kind of trick it out a little bit as to something that's, again, a much more sovereign ownership of who and what it is you represent yourself as. I was kind of seeing visions of, not your NFT was not just your profile picture, but also how people could find you. So your profile picture or your NFT could actually plug into many different interfaces, so that way they couldn't take your following away from you, and they could take the platforms down. But if you had built, for instance, one of the fun things about our newsletter, our private newsletter, our group, is these are all things that are done via .com networks that are largely much more open in terms of how we can stay connected over time. And it gives you kind of a direct access to the community. We're not reliant upon this third-party relationship like YouTube or another driver of content. So here's one of the things I think that's also important is when you're dealing with a good investment, you have 10 years, right? So when I'm interested in making an investment in something like CTX, I'm going to give myself time. I would love to have ton of that. I think they're going to do really well, but I don't want to try to execute all at once. It's going to take a few years to get there. So sometimes rushing your process, it can work. Sometimes it blows up in your face. I found this unique function of just being patient for a lot of things to kind of come together and make it all kick. So when you're going through your studies and you're finding serendipity, you're going to run into some project that really clicks with you. There's some other people in the private group too. They were all over the Bored Apes. Y'all couldn't explain the NFTs or the metaverse to me. I was all in layer 1 DeFi, I was totally focused. Now I'm head over heels for the NFT and the I guess the whole gaming sector. I think it's way more exciting than the DeFi sector. So largely from trying to tell you anything specific, because if you go to arcanebear.com, you can find a bunch of specifics of things that we've been interested in over the past. We've got our initial research pages, which was 2017 to 2018 investments. And then under Wu Wei, you can find 2020 onwards investments effectively to kind of a gap in in 2019 or end of 2019, 2020, or at least largely a gap from anything outside of the original thesis. It wasn't until 2020 and 2021 because we had Avalanche and Solana, but that was about it. There were a bunch of other things I didn't see at all. It wasn't until like you had Uniswap, you had all these fun things exploding, and I really only saw Solana and Avalanche. It's like these two fuckers here are like awesome. My ratted out thoughts on technology. These are freaking great. So when you're going through, you're trying to find what it is you want to invest in. I'm not going to tell you. No one's going to be able to go on screen and tell you. No matter how many charts or data ideas that they tell you, you're largely you're going to make a good intuitive decision based off the people. This is why we always host podcasts with the founders. We try to do as much content around that. We think that people are the most important part of the infrastructure of technology, especially when we're building this stuff. Like we don't know where it can go. And one of the things that I get wrong is that even though I might not make the investments in the NFTs, we still had Chantel on the show chatting about her launching her album via an NFT. I think it's really fun to witness how communities participate with one another, whether it's in a town or in a global decentralized little city. The Bored Apes has really had me kind of bent head over heels into, again, how much further the gaming sector I think will go in a very short period of time. Yeah, so I don't want to go into specific, but you can just go to arcanebear.com and check it out. There's a bunch there. But right off the top, let's see. Oh yeah, you got Avocado Guild, Decimated Rainmaker, Lumia's looks super freaking cool. Data Dash and me are like, once that thing comes out, we want to play that. That's we're gonna have to start a whole new freaking channel so we can play video games from now on. That's it. Nicholas Merton, I'm calling on you to make a gaming channel with me. We need to play Legends of Illumia. Solus, Christian Zhang. I think the interconnectedness of some of the brands that Animoca is building out is super smart. Animoca's playbook right now of building like a network ecosystem of companies that kind of work together makes a lot of sense to me. What else was cool? Oh, the new Nyan Hero videos looks dope. I also like their Metacat games. I'm not much of a gamer, and I don't know why or what games people like. Like, I've never been one good at picking popular culture. I've got culture. It's just not always popular. What else was great? Oh yeah, DeFi, the AR mass for learning how to code. I think this is really a smart idea. Learn to earn, kind of educational explorations for people as well. This is really smart. The DeFi team specialized in doing I think it was the Amazing Race kind of styles with AR stuff too. We've seen a lot of that do really well. So Drop actually is also in that same category as Solus. So these companies haven't all launched. This is just what we've either been able to invest in or are interested or want to invest in. So for instance, we can give you a kind of example. We've been watching Nyan Heroes for a few months. And the reason that is because I'm a big fan of Three Arrows Capital. So I myself, like a little schoolboy here, I want to see what these guys are doing. I like their thesis, so I want to know what they're investing in. And often we've actually had a few things in common. Hey, look, we were fans of Avalanche and Bitcoin and Ethereum. Oh, look, and Terra and Solana. I was never a big fan of Polkadot. We caught Mina for a little bit, but there's just too much going on. Like I can't understand everything. I don't have a cap table as big as these guys. These guys are monster in this industry. So I just scroll around studying and be like, oh, this looks dope. What's Nyan Heroes? You drop in, you play around. I'm like, oh, cool, little cats in robot bodies. I'm so into this stuff right now. I go in and start staking. Okay, you can stake. And anyways, part of the fun here is the exploration and the discovery, because we got warriors. Who else we got here? Tank. And then they got little metacats up at the top here that control the robots. So you can upgrade your cat and the robot, I believe. Now, again, I'm not super hip to the game industry. My interesting is just an on-ramp for people participating. in brand growth. Yeah, so you got these cute little cats. First off, I'm a big fan of cute things. Yes, I think like most people, I'm a big fan of cute things. So when I see cute things here, I think, hey, you know what? People are probably gonna like that. I know it's silly, I know it's simple, but that's a sell factor for me right there. They also did some cool initiatives by giving away some of their revenues. You'd have to double check on this to a pause a cat charity foundation to help something with cats. I'm not specifically sure. Scrolling through Twitter, you can follow them on Twitter. I know Nyan Heroes is coming up here in a few months, maybe in a month. We don't know. You can join their Discord, join the Telegram. Don't fall for any scams. Pay attention. I don't even know. I have no idea. I just know I like this because I see it here on 3 Arrows Capital. So I try to actually ultimately you're trying to look for what has the most potential to be successful in the landscape of the untrodden path. This is another one. Hey, look, they've got Drop on here too. This is great. We thought Drop was a great investment. This was another one of Animoca's style plays as well. I think it has close ties with a bunch of other brands that they're working with. So they've got a really unique style of adoption for the way they build and play in this ecosystem. So again, I try not to do too much effort-filled work, and I try to just follow the signal of interest. So I was like, okay, 3O Cap was great. I'm like, oh, we've got other similar investments. What else? They're investing in games too. So this is largely kind of the fun of it. You don't have to find an investment thesis like 3 Arrows Capital. They found a great product here. It's like you look. We'll go over. We're gonna book a podcast hopefully with Max from Nyan. They've got a great team. They built out a great game. We had the conversation with Drop too. Again, you can find their information on arcanebear.com if you do go look. There's a bunch of stuff out there. We're largely focused on the play to earn and kind of, I guess, NFT identity sector. So that actually shows up. Imperium Empires is another fucking sweet game too, and I'm a huge fan of this because it's built on Avalanche. BT Dubs. This looks like a dope game. I want to invest in this one. I've been trying to get a hold of them's people. I messaged M and I hit up the business development of Avalanche. I fucking messaged everybody over here. Nobody responded back to me about chatting with these guys. I would have loved to chatted with them. I'm a big fan of games like this. Again, I'm not much of a gamer, but I've put it on my to-do list recently, so I've been figuring out what games I like. I've been a musician my whole life, so kind of playing around and discovering a new interest, and more so, I guess, discovering why other people find things interesting is probably the bigger development, because I obviously get addicted once I start playing too. I'm like, damn, this is a good game. Like, I'm having fun. Like, click on my controller. This is a great game. Anyways, Imperium Empires was another fantastic one we saw too. And it runs on Avalanche, one of our favorite choices of the chains. Now, personally, and you have CTX on Terra now. You got all these games in Solana. This whole ecosystem is just set to explode. I think ultimately what we found here is, again, another reason to be very bullish. This is not a bearish signal. This doesn't look like a bearish signal. Anyways. Okay, let's go back here. Just some questions. Volume is low compared to the rest of YouTube. Oh, I could turn it up here. Maybe it is low. There we go. I never know how to do this right. This is the way it goes. Two, I want what you had. I had a great day is what I had. I hope you have a great day too. So what is a GMT coin? Why is it going to have no idea. What do you think of Star Atlas? Okay, here's what I think of Star Atlas. I think a lot of people don't understand what the fuck is going on in the NFT gaming sector. I looked at the broader gaming sector, and a lot of the gamers are like, oh, we don't like NFTs. But I think it's just they don't understand it. That's it. And often we don't like what we don't understand. So I don't doubt them for their misunderstanding. They're doing what they think is right, and that happens all the time. When you don't understand something, you just make an assumption. You're like, oh, I don't like this. I don't understand it. I can't. Bah. So something like Star Atlas probably isn't getting a great rapport from the gaming community right now, but that doesn't matter. What's important is that you have first mover advantage in a new gaming ecosystem, which is currently being built, and all those gamers are going to come flocking to this ecosystem once it starts to grow. Axie Infinity is one game. We saw what one game could do. One game in this ecosystem changed people's lives around the world. It was a social impact use case I never would have imagined. So I think what Star Atlas is aiming to provide is a very high-class version of the metaverse in this kind of star-based world where you could have a job of any kind. You could have, let's say you have 1 million people on the game every day or something like this. A lot of people. What if some of these people are they're miners, what are they building ships, or they're on missions effectively? And this broad spectrum kind of use case of the DAO, DeFi infrastructure within the game is still, I don't think a lot, we've chatted with a few of the game developers, and some of them seem really hip to it, and a lot of the founders who are from the background of DeFi see that a bit faster. The gamers, they get the game very quickly, but the aspect of adding real financials to a game and real brand ownership to a game is fucking huge. It's a huge deal. You were never rewarded again for not just the participation, but what about ownership of the brand? That is crazy shit. What Bored Ape has kind of led the way of in the thought process is wait, hold on. What happens when one of these brands kicks? What happens when these brands kick? And we've seen that. That's why Axies have become so expensive. And that's why people had found a way to profit by building a guild, because then these guilds that had the players, and they knew the players needed the assets. And now the people that wanted to play the game couldn't own the assets, but could still earn a wage more than they would at the regular assets. Very complex conversation about economic peer-to-peer transactions. Do you want to play this game for $10 or something like this? If you win, if you die, in a smooth love potion, largely I think as something like Axie grows as a brand, it's going to be around for decades, basically. Axies will be almost around, from what I feel now, it'll be around for decades. This is going to be a game that just continues to grow its brand. So what happens if you own some of those? We have a few Axies. I don't think they're worth very much. I think the ones we have are probably about $500 each. They're pretty cool Axies. I have no freaking clue. I can't tell the difference. You can show me. But the people that know something about Axies tell me they're pretty cool. But ultimately, that could change. It could change dramatically. It could drop dramatically. It could go to nothing. I think I probably have some Pokemon or Pogs or something left somewhere, right? So ultimately, what people find interesting and the brands that people find interesting are a different conversation than something like Bitcoin or money. But ultimately, so I've got a few ideas I share with you. I think ultimately follow just your own passion and choice. It'll give you a clear example of where you want to end up, because that way you're spending the most time focusing on the things that are interesting to you, not just what you think is going to make you the most money. And usually when you get what you think is most interesting to you, the money thing is pretty closely aligned. And if it's not, and then why are you doing what you're doing, and are you even happy doing it? There's a whole bunch of other questions that come into play. I think that are probably more important than money. But anyways, this is a late night chat. I wake up at around 5:30 in the morning, and it's getting late now. This is also how you can tell, you get a little doozy tired, I guess. That's what you call it. A little tired. We've got some fun things coming up here. Not this weekend, because it's the weekend and we won't be back online. Ultimately, I think we're super fucking bullish, so that's a fun thing. We have a podcast on Monday with Starseed. Oh, that'll be fun. And then we have, let's see, there's one more. We have another podcast booked here coming up. I think it's with Averik. No, we did Averik. Sorry. We have another podcast coming up this week. I couldn't find it on my calendar. We have another podcast coming up this week as well. Crypto Learner asks, one last question is, what's up with tryhards? Sometimes, well, actually, I don't know. I looked on their Twitter. Game looks good so far. But sometimes things just don't succeed. This is why, making investments, Look how many investments are in Three Arrows cap table here. It's not because all of these are going to be successful. Some of them are going to be wildly fucking successful, and some of them are going to fail totally. And that's just the name of the game. Like, trying to get as many right is important, yeah, clearly, but you're still going to have some that just totally fail. And that's how you learn. So that's what's up. Sounds like a learning moment. I'm not sure. I saw them. The game looked good. I think the price depression. I could actually make some arguments that they probably made some mistakes. If you raise funds from too many, there's not all players are like Three Arrows Capital, where you're like, yeah, you want those guys on your cap table. And this is a new ecosystem still. A lot of companies are learning about who's good to work with. Although the reputation signal is much higher than it was in 2017, so that's awesome. Do you like Harmony? We were big fans of Harmony in 2017 and 2018. I think there's better technology now. So that's just the way things go in this ecosystem. Anyways, that's a late night chat. It's a very long time. Thank you for all who joined. I love that we can do this. I figured it'd show up. It's been a long time since I've been here. And, whoa, I'm super spacey when it's late, but that's okay. I have fun. I think I forgot what I was talking about once or twice too. I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. That's fine. Just chilling. So I try not to care too much about little things. So easy to get stuck up. No, I do still yelling at the people that drive too fast. Oh wait, that's me. Anyways, deal with the Arcane Bear. We'll see you guys again in the next episode. Yeah, podcast. That's what I was trying to tell. We got a podcast coming up. I don't remember what it is, so you'll find out when it happens. And some fun stuff coming up for the private den as well, so keep your eyes posted in the private den. Ultimately bullish, so everyone's going to have a great time, which means that, oh shit, that actually reminds me, if ultimately we kick back up here, and I think it feels like we are, all these countries are dropping their COVID restrictions, and we were going to do an Arcane Bear private get-together, and we canceled it because of the freaking restrictions. I think now the shit's easing up. We should start that again. That's it. DW, I know when you hear this, we got to fire up that old Arcane Bear retreat center idea again. Ice baths, meditation, and hanging out somewhere beautiful. Maybe some other, ecstatic dances, live music, cacao. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need. We need to plan that. Now that everything's opening back up again, we're going to plan that, ladies and gentlemen. So if you happen to be part of the private bear den, we're going to open that up. I know a bunch of you were interested and we had to cancel. We were going to try to do it basically right around now. But now that everything's looking like it'll open up, we'll plan it for a little bit in the future, maybe near August. So we'll get some feedback from everyone in the bear den about where maybe we would want to do it. Anyways, have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. And we'll catch you on the other side.